You're listening to Dakota Spotlight. My name is James Wallner. Just a note, graphic violence is discussed in this story. You'll also hear me cast evil as a wandering drifter to explore why people do terrible things. That image is just a storytelling device and never excuses anyone. Every killer you'll hear about is 100% responsible for what they did. I came across a sliver of true crime insanity the other day, a story from South Dakota that I'd never heard of before. When a 911 dispatcher answered the call, a female's voice was on the other end. She said something like this: "I've been stabbed in my home. I'm dying. I have a baby here. Please come quick." As it turns out, this was a murder for hire case. I decided I wanted to share this story with you, so as I usually do, I sat down in front of my computer. I put on some music, and I started typing. The following essay, I'll just call it an essay, is what came beaming down into my brain and into my bloodstream. It's what drifted and then dripped through my arms and tendons and wrists and into my hands on a rainy afternoon in July. The following is what I witnessed my fingers typing into my keyboard, hovering somewhere out there in front of me like a weightless tablet in the mist. I've titled this essay, "Evil is a Dumbass Drifter." It's a new feeling that has slowly come creeping over me like a somber memory or something. But it's not a memory, not something from the past. It's something new, something I'm learning and I'm witnessing and experiencing. I wonder if homicide detectives feel this way. After years of walking into crime scenes that have been haphazardly redecorated with themes of cold-blooded murder and senseless hate and violence. Somehow I've stopped becoming surprised by the horrible things humans are capable of. I suppose that's called becoming desensitized. Yet here I am writing about it anyway, so clearly I am still sensitive to it. It still bothers me to no end. Maybe it bothers me more than ever if I really think about it, which is what I'm doing now, thinking about it, going around and around and around in circles on a home that goes around and around the sun. Something is different. I'm zooming out somehow. A bigger picture is trying to present itself. I'm zooming out from the perpetrators themselves, from their names, their lives, their crimes, and their convictions. I'm zooming out from the color of their hair, their eyes, and their weapons of choice, whether a drug or a gun or a rope or a knife. I'm not giving up on understanding them a little better. I'm still interested in them as individuals. But somehow I feel that simply looking at them one by one by one by one has gotten us nowhere. The few times I've spoken to a killer, and the many times I've read about them, whether in prison or elsewhere, these perpetrators reveal in many ways that, at least in their own minds, they are somehow victims themselves. They seem oddly detached from their crimes and from what others call morals or remorse. I don't know why I should be so surprised by this. If a person is prepared to brutally take the lives of others one day, what makes me expect them to suddenly just walk out of the fog 20 or 40 years later while holding a newly calibrated moral compass? Most of them say they would change the past if they could, but they've given up trying. They can't change the past, and they know it. End of story. Now, if you're on the verge of believing that I'm about to say that cold-blooded murderers are victims, you are mistaken. Each and every one of them has made some kind of choice to take another life. They are not victims of that crime. They are the perpetrators. I don't feel differently about them, but I sometimes envision them differently. As a group, instead of one by one by one all alone, I see them one by one all together. Actually, I see them tethered together, an endless queue of killers slowly and somewhat somberly parading past in formation, a chain gang of guilty, defeated beings resigned to their past, their present, and what might still be waiting for them in this life, and perhaps beyond. I see them passing by like demoralized soldiers or perhaps broken-spirited slaves, and while I can clearly observe this endless column of sad beings disappearing off into the horizon, I've had a harder time understanding where they're coming from or who or what it is that enlisted them in this endless formation in the first place. But today, on this rainy afternoon in July, I find myself wondering if the answer isn't quite simple. The answer is evil. Maybe evil is just a dumb-ass drifter, a homeless and rabid vagabond, a cunning yet cowardly entity that expertly moves from town to town, from farm to farm, from city to city. A wayward, deadbeat drifter that sneaks past roadblocks and slips in under the radar. Evil needs no home. Evil wants no home. What evil wants is followers and faithful, dumbed-down foot soldiers. Somehow, both patient and impatient at the same time, evil is restless. It always has places to be and new people to meet and to dazzle and to woo, but rarely does it move on before its work is done. Evil arrives in a new town with a big phony smile on its face, with shiny promises of better things to come. Evil hangs around street corners and seedy bars and upscale restaurants. It takes jobs everywhere and anywhere. It infiltrates at banks and gas stations, in government, on ranches and schools, and everywhere else. Evil is a dumbass drifter, a con man, a false prophet seeking out the easily persuaded, recruiting the unaware, preying on the lost, lonely, and wounded with its propaganda-laced agenda, an agenda of hate and rage, and what must be one of the most senseless of all human undertakings, the enjoyment and pleasure of witnessing, sometimes causing, the suffering of others. A human pastime that is 100% unnecessary for human existence to function. Perhaps human suffering is unavoidable, but taking pleasure from the suffering of others is not. And who does evil think should suffer? Your enemies, that's who. But here's the thing. Evil invents your enemies for you. Evil pulls them out of thin air and presents them to you as some kind of problem, a brand new problem you didn't even know existed. Evil scapegoats. Evil feeds on your fears. Then suddenly one day, evil whispers to its newly captivated audience, "Hey, you, wouldn't your life be better without that person around or without those people still around?" Evil concocts lies and false narratives and suggests your life would be better if people you have never met and never ever will meet might best be taken away, chased away, silenced. Sometimes it's just people who don't think like you or look like you, or God forbid, those who dare to approach their own personal pursuit of their own personal happiness in their own personal way. Many of us, I used to think most of us, are immune to evil's frequencies, deaf to evil's absurd lure to sheer meanness and cruelty towards others. We never tune to that station. We know it's bullshit. Perhaps our hearts are configured with firewalls where compassion blocks and deflects the many fallacies in evil's pathetic, groundless arguments. And so we can spot evil blocks away, a million miles away, as it stands on the street corner recruiting its pawns. If we do pass by, evil may at times try to recruit, whispering to you, hey you over there," as it looks for a way in, scanning your vulnerabilities, your weak spots where empathy's wiring might be frayed and cracked by past trauma or loneliness or addiction or social isolation. Let's face it, we are only human and we are full of weaknesses. Most of us walk past evil without even making eye contact. And when we do that, evil leaves us alone, for it sees that it has no use for us. No use for the free-thinking, the independent, for the questioning, the alert, and the ever-critical. No use for non-followers with a securely patched heart. Evil is a spineless narcissist. It doesn't want independent souls. Evil wants foot soldiers in its killer queue. So now, when I think back to, say, Season 3 of this podcast, The House on Sweet and 7th, it seems so clear to me that evil was hanging out in Bismarck, North Dakota in 1998. And Brian Erikstad and his friend Robert Lawrence and the dozen other teenagers and 2 adults who partied in the little house by A&B Pizza, clearly their hearts were not patched very well. There was no firewall in place. And so when evil found them, when evil whispered to Brian Erikstad, "Hey, Brian, wouldn't your life be better if your loving parents were dead?" Brian didn't walk on past. He made a choice he knew deep down was wrong. He stopped and he listened to evil. And so did his friend Robert Lawrence. And then off they went to Laredo Drive in South Bismarck to end the lives of 2 innocent people. That was in 1998, but I've recently realized, before showing up there in Bismarck, 3 years earlier, evil clearly must have been hanging out just down the road. Well, actually 400 miles down the interstate in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, just before a young woman dialed 911 and told the dispatcher, "I've been stabbed in my apartment. I'm going to die. I have my baby here. Please come quick." We'll be right back. In 1995, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 25-year-old Mary Kay Ross was a college student. She was studying to be a paralegal. She was also a single parent. Her daughter, Christian, was 14 months old. The 2 of them lived in an apartment on 43rd Street. Mary had a bubbly personality. Her friends knew her to be a good mother. She was planning a future for herself, a career, a long life for her and a long life for her daughter. Mary was caring and empathetic, the type of person evil wouldn't have given the time of day. She was such a good person, in fact, that she invited her friend, Amy Power, to live with her for a while. Why? Because her friend Amy Power needed help. Amy Power was in a bad place. Amy was married to Robert Power. The relationship wasn't good. Amy Power needed a safe house, and that's what the compassionate Mary Kay Ross offered her. She opened her home to Amy. "You can stay with me and my daughter for a while," she told her. She gave Amy a key. But of course, not everyone liked this. Concepts such as kindness, empathy, and caring for friends don't play well when evil has set up shop in town. Amy Power's husband, Robert, became very angry at Mary Kay Ross for offering his wife a safe house. And Robert was also the kind of guy that stops at a street corner to listen to the whisperings of a dumbass drifter with a phony smile and promises of better things to come. And so Robert Power listened when evil whispered to him, "Hey, maybe your life would be better if Mary Kay Ross wasn't around anymore. Then your wife won't have a safe place to live." And Robert Power wasn't a free-thinking, questioning, independent man with a firewall of kindness in his heart. He dialed into evil's frequency, and he listened, and he thought, "Yeah, my life would be better if Mary Kay Ross wasn't around anymore." The thought that Mary's 14-month-old daughter wouldn't have a mother anymore didn't seem to bother Mr. Power. And like evil itself, 21-year-old Robert Power wasn't the kind of guy to do his own dirty work, so he approached a friend, a guy named Michael Smith. Robert Power says, "Hey, Mike, I want to have a girl killed for no real good reason," or who knows what Mr. Power said exactly. Now, 2 people in Sioux Falls, South Dakota knew of a plot to kill an innocent young woman. I don't know exactly what Mike Smith answered. I do know for sure what he did not say. He didn't say, "That sounds crazy. Killing someone sounds crazy." He didn't say, "Killing a mother of a 14-month-old kid sounds crazy." He didn't say, "That's wrong. Don't do it. You shouldn't do it." And he didn't say, "I won't help you." What Mike Smith said was, "Oh, okay, I can hook you up with 2 of my roommates. They'll probably do it." His roommates were Eric Kuhn and Robert Poppin. Robert Power had somehow gotten his hands on his wife's key to Mary Kay Ross's apartment. "Here's the key so you can go kill her," he says to Eric Kuhn and Robert Poppin. "And here's $50, he says. "Go buy some gloves and stuff. Then go kill Mary Kay Ross. For this I will give you each either $10,000 or a pound of meth," neither of which Robert Power actually had. Now 4 people in Sioux Falls, South Dakota knew about a plot to kill an innocent young mother. And apparently Eric Kuhn and Robert Poppin were not free-thinking, independent, questioning individuals either. No calibrated moral compass there. No. Eric Kuhn and Robert Poppin were dumbed-down followers, the kinds of kids that stop at a street corner or anywhere a fraud with a phony smile might pitch his promises that their lives would somehow be better if others weren't around. So, on July 9th, Kuhn and Poppin went to Mary Kay Ross's apartment and let themselves in with a key. And just like in the Bismarck murders 3 years later, these killers grabbed kitchen knives. They stabbed Mary 16 times in the head and upper torso. Just like in the Bismarck murders, the blades broke off. And then 911 got a call from Mary Kay Ross. "I've been stabbed in my home. Come quick. I'm dying. I have a baby here." The police arrived quickly. They found Mary Kay Ross bleeding towards death, her 14-month-old daughter standing in her crib. Mary was pronounced dead later at the hospital. Just like the Erikstad murders in Bismarck, these killers had friends. And just like in Bismarck, these friends were willing to help out. A guy named Walter Reed Kraft Jr. helped throw some bloody clothing away for them, and he did his best to protect his buddies. Now 5 people in Sioux Falls, South Dakota knew about the murder. In the end, all 5 were apprehended. 3 of them confessed to murder to avoid the death penalty. Mike Smith, the guy who hooked Powers up with his roommates, took his case to trial, lost, received a sentence of life. The 5th man who helped dispose of bloody clothing got 2 years in prison. Even then, evil found more foot soldiers in the friends of the killers. As if Mary Kay Ross's family and loved ones hadn't suffered enough, they had to endure witnessing 2 young women embracing each other, crying and calling out to their friends, the killers, as they were paraded into the courthouse. "We love you," they cried out. And then I suppose evil slipped out the back door of the courthouse with a smirk on its face, perhaps thumbed a ride north, headed eventually to Bismarck, North Dakota, where it would find another audience in Erikstad and Lawrence 3 years later. And who knows how many places it visited in between. Evil is a fraud and a parasite. It loiters for the easily swayed, recruits the unready, and preys on the lonely, hawking a gospel steeped in hate, rage, and humanity's most senseless pastime, finding pleasure in the suffering of others. Evil scapegoats, evil feasts on fear. Beware the dumbass drifter, for he will conjure enemies out of thin air, hand them over to you like overdue bills, and swear your life can't improve until they're gone. We will know we're edging dangerously close to the shackles of evil the moment a sudden resentment blooms inside of us against someone we've never truly met, a person who looks, loves, prays, dresses, or dreams differently than us, and therefore, according to the flashy, smooth-talking, dumbass drifter, must be stopped. That bitter spark in your chest, that's evil's whisper, urging you into the chain gang. And even then it's not too late. There is an antidote catched inside of you. In your heart, there's an arsenal. Love, curiosity, simple neighborly acceptance. Unleash it and watch evil shrink, whimper, and drift on, because the drifter named evil cannot camp where compassion stands guard. Don't be a blind foot soldier for the dumbass drifter. Thank you for listening to Dakota Spotlight. That's all from me, and I will see you next time.